Whiskey lovers won't admit it, but we've all had that one bottle that tasted like someone bottled regret and called it heritage. With shelves packed from Kentucky to Japan, it's hard to know what's worth sipping and what belongs strictly in cola. So today we're ranking 15 major whiskey distilleries from the bottom tier to the truly exceptional, judging everything on flavor, consistency, real-world reputation, and whether you'd actually reach for a second pour. No snobbery, no collector delusion, just honest whiskey talk. And trust me, a few entries here might ruffle feathers. Let's start from the bottom. Number 15, Canadian Mist. Canadian Mist sits at the very bottom of this list, not because it's offensive, but because there's almost nothing memorable about it. This is the kind of bottle you'll see on the lowest shelf, wrapped in plastic handles, destined for mixed drinks or crowded party coolers, where nobody is checking labels. Its production style focuses heavily on neutrality, light grain, faint caramel, thin texture. And while that approach keeps it easy to drink, it strips away anything that gives whiskey character. Culturally, Canadian Mist fills a niche. It's dependable, widely available, and works perfectly for highballs, rail cocktails, and situations where flavor isn't the priority. People who buy it know exactly what they're getting: smoothness without depth. That said, in a ranking built on flavor and identity, its simplicity becomes its downfall. There's no boldness, no standout aromatic profile, nothing to make you pause and appreciate the glass. It's not bad, it's just barely there. Number 14, Jack Daniel's Old No. 7. Jack Daniel's might have one of the most recognizable labels in the world, but the flagship Old No. 7 finds itself near the bottom simply because the liquid rarely matches the legend. This is the bottle plastered on bar walls, printed on t-shirts, and associated with rock concerts and Americana aesthetics. Yet when you actually sip it neat, the experience is mixed. Expect charcoal-heavy aromas, a bit of banana sweetness, and a burn that hits earlier than you'd expect for a whiskey this iconic. Where Jack excels is culture. It's the default bottle for beginners, a staple in Coke cocktails, and an international ambassador of Tennessee whiskey. But as far as sipping goes, the profile swings from mellow to harsh, depending on the batch, making it inconsistent. Fans love the attitude more than the flavor, and that's why it lands here. Legendary branding, everyday taste. Number 13, Jim Beam White Label. Jim Beam White Label is the bourbon equivalent of your favorite diner coffee. Always there, never fancy, but somehow comforting in its own way. It carries an important legacy, rebuilding after Prohibition and setting the foundation for some incredible Beam releases. But when judged purely on taste, White Label is noticeably simple. You'll get sweet corn notes, warm vanilla, a little peanut shell character, and enough heat to remind you this is bourbon made for mixing. What keeps it iconic is its role behind the bar. Dive bars rely on it. College crowds swear by it. Bartenders use it as their default bourbon for cocktails that don't require premium complexity. It's reliable, accessible, and durable. Still, when stacked against more rounded, polished bourbons, Beam's base bottle shows its limitations. It's friendly, familiar, and versatile, just not flavorful enough to climb higher. Number 12, Johnnie Walker Red Label. Johnnie Walker Red Label is arguably the most globally recognized Scotch on earth. But that fame comes with compromises. This blend was engineered for consistency and resilience in cocktails, not for nuanced sipping. The flavor leans grain-forward with peppery heat, faint smoke, and a sharpness that hits quicker than the more refined Walker expressions. Neat, it can feel aggressive. In mixed drinks, it suddenly shines. Where Red Label dominates is in its footprint. Weddings, airports, office parties. It's everywhere. And that presence alone makes it a cultural phenomenon. It's a starter Scotch for millions, an introduction to the idea of blends, and a bottle that feels familiar even if you've never owned one. But in a lineup judged on depth and pleasure, Red Label is simply too blunt. It does the job, but there's little reason to linger on it. 11. Jameson. Jameson earns its place just outside the bottom 10 by being the friendliest whiskey on this list. Smooth, light, and easygoing, it has converted more hesitant drinkers into whiskey fans than almost any other bottle. With its triple distilled approach, Jameson delivers honey sweetness, soft fruit notes, and a finish so gentle that beginners barely notice the alcohol. It's approachable in a way few spirits are. The cultural impact is massive. St. Patrick's Day wouldn't feel complete without it. College nights rely on it for shots, and the infamous pickleback owes its existence to Jameson's forgiving profile. Yet that's also the reason it doesn't climb higher. Its simplicity, while charming, limits its depth. It's enjoyable, reliable, and endlessly social, but those seeking something layered or contemplative will move on quickly. Before we jump into the top 10, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell. It helps the channel more than any sponsorship, and it tells me to keep making honest rankings that save you from wasting money on overrated bottles. Number 10, Crown Royal. Crown Royal sits comfortably at number 10 because it's one of the few major Canadian brands that successfully turned convenience store accessibility into something close to a cultural icon. The velvet bag alone has earned its own fan base. People use it for coin stashes, dice bags, even car consoles. And that packaging mystique often overshadows the whiskey itself. Flavor-wise, the standard purple bag release leans sweet and mellow, with notes of vanilla, caramel, and gentle grain that make it one of the easiest pours for casual drinkers. It's smooth, no doubt, but that smoothness comes at the cost of depth. Where Crown truly shines is in flavored variants. Apple, peach, vanilla. These bottles dominate social settings, summer cocktails, and holiday parties because they're fun, approachable, and versatile. That's also why Crown doesn't climb higher. The brand's most memorable offerings rely heavily on sweetness rather than classic whiskey character. It's enjoyable, it's friendly, and it works in almost any mixed drink. But as a straight whiskey, the core bottle plays it very safe. Number 9, Maker's Mark. Maker's Mark earns its spot in the top 10 because it delivers something many mid-shelf bourbons struggle with: personality without pretension. That iconic red wax dip gives the bottle instant recognition. But behind the looks is a wheated bourbon known for its gentle, round flavor profile. The absence of rye in the mash makes the palate soft and warm, bringing notes of caramel, baking spices, and a subtle fruity sweetness that feels more refined than its price tag suggests. You'll find Maker's Mark in cocktail bars, upscale lounges, and home collections because it works everywhere. It's smooth enough for newer drinkers, but structured enough to be taken seriously in a classic old-fashioned or a Manhattan. The brand also leans into transparency and craftsmanship, with consistent batches and a story rooted in family tradition. Still, it doesn't push extremes. No aggressive spice, no heavy oak, no wild experimentation. That restraint is a strength for some, but a limitation for a ranking like this. Number 8. Wild Turkey. Wild Turkey brings a level of confidence that sets it apart from other mainstream distilleries. It isn't trying to please everyone, and that's exactly why so many whiskey fans respect it. Its flagship Wild Turkey 101 is unapologetically bold, delivering bursts of spice, orange peel, caramelized sugar, and genuine oak structure. It's a whiskey that tastes like it was made with intention, not algorithms or focus groups. What really pushes Wild Turkey up the list is consistency. Whether you're sipping 101, rare breed, or long branch, there's a shared backbone that feels authentic. Bartenders love it because it stands its ground in cocktails without losing nuance. Experienced drinkers appreciate its honest, slightly old-school punch. Yet that intensity can be a barrier. Newcomers often find it too sharp or too loud compared to gentler bourbons. Wild Turkey doesn't care. It's proud of its edge, and that edge is exactly what earns it the number 8 slot. Number 7, Four Roses. Four Roses is where the countdown shifts from good to thoughtfully crafted. This distillery became a favorite among enthusiasts because of its rare combination of transparency and complexity. The use of 2 mash bills and 5 distinct yeast strains gives Four Roses 10 unique flavor recipes, allowing for blends that feel layered without being overwhelming. Its bottles, whether the approachable yellow label or the more refined single barrel, always have a signature floral lift, soft fruitiness, and spice interplay that sets them apart. The brand's revival story also adds to its charm. Once relegated to bottom shelf status in the US, Four Roses reemerged with focus and precision, earning respect from whiskey groups and collectors alike. You'll often hear Four Roses recommended as the bourbon that teaches people how diverse whiskey can be. Yet that same variety, with codes, batches, and yeast charts, can confuse casual drinkers. It earns its high ranking because the craftsmanship is undeniable, but it stops at 7th because its complexity isn't always beginner-friendly. Number 6. Woodford Reserve. Woodford Reserve stands at number 6 due to its impeccably polished style. Everything about this bourbon feels deliberate, from the bottle shape to the layered flavor structure that leans into orange zest, toasted oak, cocoa, and light spice. It's the official bourbon of the Kentucky Derby, and that association alone cements its place as a special occasion bottle for many Americans. Hotels, lounges, and high-end bars stock it because it elevates any cocktail without overpowering it. What makes Woodford appealing is its consistency. Each release feels balanced, measured, and designed to appeal to both newcomers and experienced bourbon drinkers. There's a certain creamy richness to its texture that sets it apart from leaner, sharper bourbons. Still, that same refinement can make it feel a bit engineered, almost too careful. It doesn't have the wild charm of craft distilleries or the deep legacy intensity of old-school brands. But as an everyday premium bourbon with broad versatility, it earns this comfortable top 6 placement with ease. Number 5. Glenfiddich. Glenfiddich earns its place in the top 5 because it represents the moment many American drinkers first realized that Scotch whiskey isn't all smoke and peat. This Speyside giant introduced millions to the idea of single malt as something refined, fruity, and layered rather than intimidating. The 12-year expression, which most people encounter first, is bright with pear, apple, malt sweetness, and gentle oak. It's balanced in a way that welcomes newcomers, but still gives seasoned drinkers something to appreciate. What keeps Glenfiddich special is its consistency and its ability to scale without losing its soul. Despite being one of the largest producers of single malt Scotch, the brand manages to maintain a sense of craftsmanship. Its lineup, from the 15-year Solera to the experimental series, shows a willingness to blend tradition with innovation. That duality appeals to a huge range of whiskey fans. Some may call it too safe, but that accessibility is precisely why Glenfiddich stands so high. It bridges the gap between mass market and connoisseur territory better than most distilleries on earth. Number 4. Redbreast Middleton Single Pot. Still, Redbreast represents the heart of Irish whiskey. Rich, expressive, and unmistakably unique. While many people still think of Ireland as the home of light, extremely smooth whiskey, Redbreast flips that assumption on its head. The single pot still style delivers an oily, full-bodied texture, layered with dried fruits, warm spices, custard-like sweetness, and a depth that lingers. The classic 12-year is already impressive, but the cast strength releases are where you see just how much power and elegance Middleton can pack into this style. Its cultural reputation has grown dramatically in the US, especially among people who outgrew lighter Irish expressions and wanted something more serious without reaching for heavy peat or high-octane bourbon. Whiskey clubs and collectors often treat Redbreast as the bottle that converts skeptics, the one that proves Irish whiskey can be as complex as any Scotch or bourbon. What keeps it at number 4 rather than higher is accessibility. While the core bottles are reasonably findable, the best releases sometimes become difficult to track down. Still, Redbreast remains one of the most beautifully crafted spirits from a major distillery anywhere in the world. Number 3. Lagavulin. Lagavulin enters the top 3 with the kind of confidence only a distillery with a wildly loyal fan base could have. This Islay powerhouse doesn't just make smoky whiskey, it defines the category for many people. The 16-year expression is legendary, offering a mix of thick peat smoke, sea spray, iodine, caramelized sweetness, and rich malt that feels almost cinematic when you take your first sip. Lagavulin doesn't try to be subtle. It embraces boldness with precision. Its cultural presence has only amplified its appeal. From celebrity endorsements to whiskey groups treating it like a rite of passage, Lagavulin has become synonymous with serious Scotch drinker. Yet the magic lies in its balance. Yes, the smoke is huge, but underneath it sit layers of sweetness, oak depth, and maritime notes that reveal themselves slowly. The only reason it doesn't take the top spot is accessibility. Not in price, but in flavor profile. Lagavulin is polarizing. People either adore it or can't get past the peat. But for those who fall in love with it, nothing else compares. Number 2. Yamazaki Suntory. Yamazaki represents the pinnacle of Japanese whiskey, delicate yet profound, subtle yet expressive. While the global frenzy around Japanese bottles has pushed prices into the stratosphere, the artistry behind Suntory's flagship distillery is undeniable. Yamazaki whiskeys carry soft fruit, honey, incense, floral notes, and a signature Japanese elegance that sets them apart from Western styles. The influence of Mizunara oak with its sandalwood and exotic spice character adds a layer that many drinkers can instantly identify. What makes Yamazaki such a force is the precision in blending and maturation. The distillery uses a variety of still shapes and cast types, creating a level of nuance rarely found in large-scale production. In the US, Yamazaki became a symbol of sophistication, the bottle people buy when they want to impress or celebrate something meaningful. Its only drawback is scarcity. Many of its most iconic releases are nearly impossible to find at retail, leaving fans chasing lottery systems or paying inflated secondary prices. Despite that, the quality remains unmatched in its category, making Yamazaki a clear contender for best distillery in the world. Number 1. Buffalo Trace. Buffalo Trace claims the number 1 spot because it pulls off something no other major distillery manages. An entire portfolio of high-performing bottles at different price points, all tied together with unmistakable character. From the accessible flagship Buffalo Trace bourbon to cult favorites like Blanton's, Weller, and even the elusive Pappy Van Winkle lineup, this distillery has shaped modern American whiskey culture more than any other. The core bourbon delivers caramel, spice, oak, and warm vanilla with remarkable smoothness, a profile that appeals to newcomers and longtime drinkers alike. Yet the real power of Buffalo Trace lies in its influence. Bottle hunts, store lotteries, Facebook groups, and entire YouTube channels revolve around these releases. They've turned everyday whiskey buying into a sport. Even if you ignore the hype, the craftsmanship is obvious across the board. Batch after batch, the distillery maintains a level of consistency that most producers envy. It's not just about rare bottles. Even the standard releases feel thoughtfully made. Buffalo Trace wins because it delivers both story and substance. And in the whiskey world, that combination is almost unbeatable. That wraps up our ranking, from the bottles you only buy in emergencies to the distilleries shaping whiskey culture today. Every name on this list has a story, but some simply deliver more depth, character, and consistency than the rest. Now I want to hear from you. Which distillery did we overrate? Which one deserves a higher spot? Drop your take in the comments. And if you want more brutally honest rankings like this, stick around. The next one might surprise you even more.